a new report by Game7 finds that more than 81 new blockchain networks targeted gaming this year, while nearly 50 blockchain games were halted. Joining us now to discuss is Game7 core contributor George Isichos. But before we get into the segment, I should disclose that I am also a contributor to the Game7 DAO. Welcome to the show, George.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you here. Wonderful to see you. Let's chat about this report now. So you looked at almost 2,000 blockchain games across 170 different ecosystems. Anything surprise you when you were putting this research together?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, since you just mentioned about it, so many blockchain ecosystems, so many blockchain games. It's been 6 years. I mean, we tend to say blockchain is new, we're still early, but this can also be true while we have already 6 years behind us of blockchain gaming innovation.
So,
all right, let's talk about this.
Who's funding all this? Like who's putting money into blockchain projects? What kind of projects are also getting funded?
Yeah, that's a tricky question because 2023 has been a hard year if you want to fundraise, regardless if you're a AAA or just a guy starting a new indie project. The report does not necessarily address the who and what kind of projects exactly are getting funded, but it's clear that despite the tough market conditions that we can all see through various metrics, important projects, key projects, especially the ones that come with some previous gaming background, they manage to still get funded again, despite the very tough market conditions.
Now, in the introduction there, I mentioned almost 50 games were halted this year. The report also says that 157 were halted in 2022. What were some of the reasons for these games stopping production?
Yeah, the data points are quite clear in this case. The lack of access to fundraising were the primary reason for this change. Secondary, the lack of product market fit or game developers not finding traction among their user base, as well as in the same time with the rise of generative AI, many game developers thought that, okay, I may have a shot in a different, a big upcoming trend. But yeah, in the vast majority of cases, lack of funding was the key driver for this development.
George, tell me, when are we going to see a Web3 game that people actually want to play? Any indication when you were doing this research?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. I don't think we're far from it. We have great teams with great background, with sufficient funding, with already 1, 2, maybe 3 years of experience building on specific titles. So on paper, we're not far from it. I would argue though that it's not just about having a fun game. I think the ecosystem is looking on one hand for a great game, a great gaming experience, regardless if you call it double, triple, or single A. But on the other hand, we are also looking for the axie moment. We are looking for a combination of gameplay experience, of community, of blockchain innovation that would say to the whole world, "Oh wow, that's what blockchain could do." You brought up this great chart, which is one of my favorite parts of the report. I don't think necessarily we need to have we need to wait for many AAA games to exist and being super successful to find good blockchain games. So yeah, the tough part is that there's a combination of gameplay mechanics, of community involvement, and the use of blockchain technology inside these titles.
I kind of find it, with that argument, this is the problem we have, of course, is that I think people really like the technology without understanding what the experience is. This goes to our previous discussion about CBDCs. What you're describing is that, well, it doesn't matter if the game is really cool. It just matters that the technology behind it is cool. And I'll tell you this, I don't see kids wanting to play games that suck. And I don't think anybody wants to play games that are not fun or not interesting. So if we could build these things on Web3, and we build these things on a decentralized version, that's great. But if you don't have users, then what does it matter?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's clear from our data that we need more mainstream gaming IP, similar to the one that has been successful to millions of gamers. But when looking for, again, the axie moment, the combination of a very fun and enjoyable gaming experience and a reason for blockchain to really exist, you need both. You need both. Based on our data, it's clear that Web3 gaming does not have enough on-paper AAA gaming content. And I want to clarify, what does this mean? I mean, I do understand why every new entrant in this ecosystem would like to say, I'm building a AAA gaming studio. But if you ask a traditional gaming audience, and okay, please define me AAA, they would say you can't be AAA unless you have already built AAA. Others might say you need to have raised at least 50 million, you need to have a big publisher support. So I don't think we should look for the term AAA, because AAA is hard and AAA requires resources that in this current condition might not be easy to get anyways.
Well, hold on. So why haven't the big companies that are in this space gone out and done it?
I think we are observing this phenomenon. When trying to understand why this hasn't happened sooner, I think it's important to make a distinction between different geographies. So when looking about US-based publishers and game developers, arguably the macro environment regulation might have been a key driver. There's no point, even if blockchain promises a lot, there's no point of destroying an existing business just to go for a moonshot. But I'm fairly optimistic. I mean, I know that the vast majority of the big players of the mainstream gaming space, they have touched and experienced with blockchain at different levels, but they're all trying to be involved. They're all trying to have internal capabilities, and they all try to do experiments. The key question is when they would start seeing blockchain as one of their key growth pillars and not just as an R&D experiment.
All right, George, and just before we wrap this, you brought up Axie Infinity, and that was the first Web3 game that really kind of hit the mainstream. Of course, their business model, play to earn. We later found out that there were some flaws with that. What business models are Web3 game developers looking at right now, and are they sustainable?
Yeah, that's a very tough question because different game developers will come with different levels of ambition. Others, they will say that I can fix Axie, let's do exactly the same, just like a minor tweak. Others are super scared and they will say, I'm going to barely use blockchain. I will use the hype about NFTs and technology and just try to hide blockchain behind the scenes. Arguably, the vast majority of game developers, they have shifted from putting blockchain as the key selling point to blockchain being an enabler of a new experience. So we should expect games that will be light on how they advertise and how what is the value prop that they offer to the gamer when it comes to why blockchain. So I think after Axie, we will see a new wave of games that they will use blockchain, but in a more mainstream friendly and background kind of way. And if this works, we should expect that even the AAAs of this world will be more than happy to dive deeper and use blockchain in more creative ways.
Yeah, I mean, has North Korea gotten involved in game building? Because they seem to have been heavily involved in Axie Infinity.
Based on their database, I can't say that, no.